Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I want to cover Scrum certifications. Now before we get started, if you don't know what Scrum is or want to learn more, I will be putting a link in the description to another video where I give kind of like a high-level overview of Scrum, but overall if it's something you're interested in, I would highly recommend finding some courses online as it's a really fascinating framework or topic. So to go ahead and get started, if you've learned about Scrum and you're interested in getting certified, but you're not sure where or if it's even necessary, you have probably heard of scrum.org and Scrum Alliance. There are other websites or other institutions where you can get certified, but these are probably the most popular too. Now the question is, which one should you get? The scrum.org is cheaper and is a certification that will last forever. There is no need to continue to recertify. Scrum Alliance is much more expensive, requires you to take a class before passing, and has continuing education. So the question is, which is better? Well, to get started, I want to give you information on both certifications so you can see what's right for you. Now, the scrum.org certification is a Psm level 1, 2, and 3, or Professional Scrum Master. Scrum Alliance is going to be your CSM, or Certified Scrum Master. Both websites offer different certifications, but today we will focus specifically on Scrum. So which one's right for you? That really depends on your budget and a number of other things. Just because Scrum Alliance has continuing education does not necessarily mean that it is better, or because it's more expensive, that may not mean that it is better either. And consequently, scrum.org being cheaper may not necessarily mean that it's inferior. So let me give you an overview of both and let you decide. So I actually obtained my Psm level 1 through scrum.org, so I will start there, but I will try to keep this as unbiased as possible. So going to the home page and going to certification, you can see that they have quite a few different certifications. So we'll click on Professional Scrum Master. From here, you'll see your Psm 1, 2, and 3. These get increasingly expensive or pricey as you obtain the next level because there's more information that's covered. So if we want to learn more about the Psm One Assessment, you can click here and get a quick overview of preparing for the assessment. You can buy the assessment where you will be sent a password to your email. You'll create your account and then you'll click Start, type in that password, and begin the test. Now, what does the test look like? Although I can't share the exact content, just to give you a general overview, looking in the Prepare for the Assessment, there is a Professional Scrum Competencies document or link to click on. However, my biggest recommendation for you is going to be the Scrum Guide. If you click on this link right here, it will take you to the Scrum Guide, which is, I believe, 18 to 19 pages. You can download this document directly from this website. All of the content on this document is necessary. I really do not think that you could pass this exam without reading this guide at least, honestly, 5 to 10 times minimum. It is a short document. If you wanted to pass this test, you could probably purchase your password, read this guide 10 to 15, probably more times, at least once or twice a day for 2 weeks. Take a couple practice assessments, take a couple more. When you're acing the practice assessments, at that point, you should be able to pass the certification exam. Now, what is it going to look like? Going back to the About page, you'll learn that the exam itself is going to be, at least at the time of filming this video, $150, and you have one attempt. They do not expire until they are used, and the exam itself, again, is not overly difficult. So what do? We want to learn more. So we can go back up to Certifications and Professional Scrum Master. And then you can click Learn next to the Psm One Assessment to learn more about the assessment process. So essentially, they do note that it's not required if you feel that you already possess a high level of Scrum knowledge. So if you're already a Scrum Master, you may not necessarily need to take it, but you may want to take it just to make sure that you actually have everything that you need, or to validate your experience, essentially. So scrolling down, we can see details. You need a passing score of 85%, there is a 60-minute time limit and there are 80 questions. So if you're asking as to whether or not it's open book, can I cheat? I believe it or not, those are questions that people ask. I've seen plenty of questions on Google. Well, in reality, the concept of Scrum is not about cutting corners. It's about being open, honest, and having integrity. And on top of that, you have 60 minutes to go over 80 questions. It's not going to give you the time that you need to constantly consult other sources or look up the answers. Some of the questions can be a paragraph or two or more long and have multiple very long answers. So there is so much content that really you just need to know this inside and out to pass this exam. Now, let's just see or say that I've read through the Scrum guide. What do I do next? Well, you start taking the practice assessments. So you'll see right here, practice assessments, Scrum Open. These are typically going to be formatted very similar to the Scrum certification test itself. Now, when you're taking the Scrum test, I've heard or seen comments on the Scrum forums that some individuals have had issues with the test taking too long to switch between questions. I myself did not have any issues. That could be something that they fixed, but just be prepared to get through the questions as quickly as you can. Flag the ones that you struggle with and move on. Because again, at the end of the day, your goal is to get an 85% or higher. If you stay stuck on one question, you could end up needing to rush near the end. Now, you go through the Scrum assessment. You can see that this will have 30 questions, 30-minute time limit, so you're not as strained for time. And if you go through this 1 to 2 times, and let's just say you get a 100, that does not mean that you're necessarily ready. It gives you an accurate depiction of the exam, but the exam itself is going to have a lot of content that you're not going to see in this test bank. You can't take this 10 times, copy and paste everything, and have all of the answers in front of you. There are so many other questions about practical application and not just definitions. So this is a great resource, and the scrum.org website has everything you need. So the biggest benefit is this is $150 if you don't want to take any class and you just want to read the Scrum guide, take practice tests, look in the forums, and learn more and be a part of a community. And you pay it one time and the certification is good for life. So that's scrum.org. Again, high-level overview. Well, next up, what about Scrum Alliance? The Scrum Alliance, honestly, is, I would say, just as big. In the industry, at least as a recruiter, I have not heard of a company that prefers one over the other. That does not mean that there aren't companies out there that have that preference. But typically the certifications, many recruiters are just looking for someone who has the experience and potentially a certification. So looking at the certifications themselves, we go up to the top, go to certification types and tracks. Now, Scrum Alliance, one of the things that turned me off to this certification, and again, personal preference, was just the sheer cost of the certification. You're required to take a course in order to take the exam, and the exam cost is built into the cost of the course. So if you click on find courses, you can see that you have $745 to $690. The prices vary based on the course and location, but you're going to be looking at really potentially $600 to $1,000 for a course. I believe a lot of these will have an option to retake if you need to, but they have a high pass rate when you go through these courses. So going back to the home page, going to certification types and tracks, we can see what are we going to need for the CSM course itself. So looking at the description, we can scroll down and see that you need to answer 37 out of 50 questions, and you have a 60-minute time limit. So interestingly enough, and I think what makes these two certifications compete at a very similar level is if you're going for the Scrum Alliance certification, you have to take the course, and you're going to need to pay for that full course, take the course to take the exam itself. You cannot just purchase the exam, at least at the time of filming this video, by itself. Once you finish the course, you only need 37 out of 50 questions to pass, and you do have a full 60 minutes, which means you have plenty of time on each question, as opposed to the Professional Scrum Master certification through scrum.org, which has the same time limit for 80 questions. So overall, I think that personally, having taken the PSM exam, it is much more difficult. I have not taken this test, but based on the amount of questions that you have and the amount of time, it does give you a lot more time to think. So you may be asking, all right, well, what is the primary difference between the two? Scrum Alliance is going to require a continuing education to maintain this certification. So you'll see renewing your certification every 2 years. You click Learn More. It'll take you to a page where you need to learn about remaining active with Scrum Alliance. So let's just say you've already paid your $650 to $750 plus dollars, taken the test and passed. Then you have to remain active with Scrum Alliance. So you do need to pay to remain active, and we'll read through this. So every 2 years, you need to demonstrate your engagement with the Agile community. So really, you need to get your Scrum education units. There are hundreds of ways to gain continuing education. So read books, blogs, and articles, attend Agile or Scrum events, enroll or participate in paths, and then pay your administrative fee, and then essentially reinvest these fees. But every 2 years, for the CSM certification, you will need to pay $100 and submit your 20 SEUs. You have a calculator to evaluate this. The one thing that I think for me was also a turnoff for this certification is to remain active, you can read books or blogs and articles. It is basically self-reported continuing education. I'm not sure if there are certifications or recertifications for this. However, it really just looks like to remain active with Scrum Alliance, you need to pay the continuing $100 per 2-year period, or you risk losing the certification or it really no longer being valid. Whereas at the scrum.org, you get access to the community, the forums, and really the blogs for the rest of your life for that one-time $150 fee, and the certification stays active for a lifetime. So at the end of the day, scrum.org does have classes which are costly that you can take, or you can take the Scrum Alliance. If you were to ask me what my recommendation is, overall, I would say scrum.org, primarily because it's a certification that does not expire. And at the end of the day, when you're going for a job, they want to know if you're about to start this position or this career, what have you done outside of the certification? If you go to scrum.org and you say, well, I have the continuing education credits, and they ask, what have you done? And you tell them essentially that you've been reading books, there's nothing to stop you from making that same comment for the scrum.org website. So to me, it makes more sense to spend the $150, pass this exam, and then get the certification, as opposed to $700 to $1,000 for Scrum Alliance, and then $100 every 2 years for the rest of your life to keep it active. And that $100 keeps you active in the Scrum Alliance forums, which means you would lose access to the community. And one of the things with Scrum, you want to be active with a community to bounce ideas off of people. It's about being adaptive and receptive to new information. So you, at the end of the day, make your decision based on what you think is best, but I at least wanted to cover what it takes to get both of these certifications. Again, I hold my PSM. I do not have anything from Scrum Alliance, so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them in the comment box below. And also, if you've taken any of these yourself and just want to offer any advice, maybe from the perspective of a Scrum Psm One holder or a CSM holder, let us know in the comment box below, and feel free to keep that engagement and really just that sense of community open so that others can ask questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to private message me as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Do not forget to like and subscribe, and check out my channel for more.